Live. So today I did my stream with Greyhorn Pagans. Mostly a chit chat for this one. It was a quiet stream most of the day today. I did one reading towards the end. It was great. Good to see you all. Yesterday I was on Unchained Brain podcast, and that was about 2 hours, a 1 hour reading, plus some chit chat before and after with the host. That was good stuff. Now, what the hell am I talking about giant robot anime and the vimanas? I've been stewing on this one a couple days now. I used to listen way back in the day, back in like the 2012s and such, to Cliff High. And then I hadn't thought much about Cliff High until my buddy Headless Giant, shout out Headless Giant, hit me up and wanted to talk about Cliff High's forthcoming prediction, which shortly after that video did actually come to pass, from his web bots talking about quote alien invasion type of stuff that would occur shortly after, within a specific amount of days after the Joe Rogan podcast with Donald Trump, and we have seen that occur. And so I've been listening to Cliff High again, not just because that was right, but just because in the mix of all the things I was doing, Cliff High was just kind of like, I forgot for a long time. Long time. Last time I talked to Cliff, I was still producing Sean David Morton, who just passed away last year, on Revolution Radio, right? It's a real shame that, Sean passes away around the same time this whole incident. There's a lot of things that happened over the course of the last couple of years where the world would have been a better place if Sean's voice was still in it. So, sail on, soldier. I'll see you soon. So, So, what am I talking about? So, Cliff High was recently talking about the vimanas, which are kind of like a terrestrial kind of ancient UFO kind of thing. A kind of like a flying super fortress kind of thing that is piloted. And he's talking about these different qualifications of what it is to be a Vimana pilot. And the more and more I am listening to the basics of his description, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, this principle is seen in giant robot anime. In a giant robot anime, and I'm talking about like where you pilot a Gundam, or you pilot an Evangelion, or whatever, right? So, Gundam, it's hardware, it's a machine for fighting, it's not the same thing except for, going through the principles of what it is to be the warrior, and the warrior who flies, it's just like in a mechanized suit of armor, right? But ultimately, it's a big fucking vehicle. It doesn't have an AI brain, and they don't even bother making them like drones, where it's a receiver for somebody piloting it remotely. It's just like, you're a soldier, you're a pilot, you're in this effing thing. Now, outside of Gundam, where you get into these more metaphysical things, a second. There we go. Alright. We get into these more metaphysical things. The way these stories are written is that, you know, you are a young man or young woman who has a unique inherent attribute, like genetics, where you are the only one who can use it. And thus, you're just this regular person, a child, in fact. Often a child who is in service to the state, right? And like you get to be a hero on a state-sanctioned level because you're a child, you can't have your own super robot. But the state needs you to take your super robot, pilot it, and go kick some ass for the greater good of your people. For better or worse as of the state of your nation that is caretaking these things, right? So you get into the example of Neon Genesis Evangelion in particular, which involves dark Kabbalism. Right? It's blatantly dark Kabbalism. Where the elites, part of their Illuminati technocracy, are doing genetics based on the Sephiroth, based on deep aspects of like Kabbalah, perhaps the Talmud, ideas of the merger of the collective of God's creation of men, so on and so forth, right? And so these men who have a certain disdain for the human course of events and who we are, how our lives are lived. Hey, what's up, Slick? They genetically engineered these humanoids based on these, based on this Kabbalistic magic. They make a giant, like, Adam and Eve, a giant Lilith kind of thing. And then they're also creating all these giant things that they're called angels, some of which are, quote, biblically accurate. Sort of what you would say are biblically accurate. I like all the redesigns in the Neon Genesis Evangelion remake movies. There's a lot of things I like about the remake movies. I don't discredit them, discount them. But for the sake of origins and fan bases that want to hear this and whatever, you know, we'll talk about the classics from the 90s of our Evangelion storyline. If I died, would I go to heaven? No, if I died, I would spend some time, you know, in the soul bank of the universe, and then I would reincarnate to do it again. And not because I did anything right or wrong, but just because that's the way it is. But anyway, we reincarnate, sir. There's literally not one soul in the underworld. There is literally not one soul in the heavens. Every soul spends some time in the afterlife and then comes back. So, you can get upset about that as much as you want. So, Cliff High is explaining that these vimanas have a couple of attributes. You have to be psychic. But you also have to be, of all fucking things, and this is a clincher for a lot of us motherfuckers that are raised by the monsters, by a society that is influenced by monsters. You have to be uncircumcised. Not because the machine won't work, but because you won't be able to control the machine, because it interfaces with you on a nervous system level. And then, also, to be properly prepared to operate the machine, you have to be expert at yoga, which means union, right? And this is the implication of the union of man and the machine. This gets into transhumanism in a funny way. And when I was actually listening to Cliff, on top of me thinking about giant robot anime as he's talking about these things, because I'm remembering that in Neon Genesis Evangelion, that's exactly how it worked. You're piloting this thing, but you feel everything in the fight. Your body has a visceral, physical reaction to damage or energy happening to the humanoid that you are piloting. You're piloting an organism in Neon Genesis. It looks like a robot because it's covered in armor, but they're never once lying to you. Like, if you miss the point where they tell you it's a humanoid, it becomes a little bit more shocking later on as things happen, like Berserk mode, which breaks the armor apart, and then you see some of the flesh of the entity that it is, because the consciousness of the entity wakes up in absence of the host having consciousness, and these are aspects of Berserker mode. And it gets into some other really weird shit that's not relevant, but I'm just saying it's there. I'm not afraid to die, I just don't want to be there when it happened. Woody Allen. Yeah. Woody Allen's almost too creepy to quote. Just happens to be, it's a very sympathetic quote. I get it. But anyway, and I can imagine a psyche evacuates itself at that time. A lot of times I think that's how these death experiences happen, right? When a near-death experience person comes back, they talk about, they're in a car crash and they're hovering above their body. They didn't even register that something happened that killed them until they're realizing that they're floating above their body, not having a dream really, yada, yada, yada. And then they get pulled back in eventually. So, in short, this is a very, very painful experience. Other aspects that really represent this, quote, merger is, Attack on Titan. In Attack on Titan, I don't know about all the Titans, because I've not read the manga, and I have not watched past Season 2. But what I do know of Attack on Titan is that the main characters, by the end of Season 1, you realize are these special children who can turn into Titans. And so one of the main characters becomes this one Titan that helps the humans fight off the hordes of other Titans. And when he does this, he has to bleed himself. He has to do a bloodletting. And then with that bloodletting, it activates the transformation, in which he's still there, but now he is surrounded by the nervous system in the back of the neck of the Titan, where he is operating, where he sees through the Titan's eyes and tastes through its mouth, and is, it's operating in every way, shape, and form, while he is also a consciousness inside in the nape of the neck, which is the same place where you pilot the Evangelion, and it is the same place that in much mysticism, maybe even Kabbalistic mysticism, is the seat of the soul, is in the nape of the neck. And which is how you kill a Titan, is that you sever the nape of the neck. You don't just cut it, but you have to cut it out. You have to cut out a wedge, right? It has to be a chunk severed. Because I think the Titans have regenerative qualities. And so the sense of the elitism, the merger of man and machine, all these themes are there with what Cliff High is saying is the revealed truth about the vimanas, right? I don't know if a lot of our quote UFOs out there are vimana tech. You know, we understand the stories coming from various whistleblowers and stuff talking about how, well, you gotta sit in this chair and then you kind of pilot it with your mind and yada yada yada, right? It seems very similar. I don't remember how far the comparatives to vimanas go or to anime to determine whether maybe it's like a vimana goes. But this is why, I talked to, if anybody out there is doing the esoteric thing and somewhere in the corner of their mind is like, wasn't there something weird in an anime that's kind of like that? Or, I don't know, I don't really watch anime, right? I keep encouraging people that, if you're going to talk about pop culture influence on things, it's very worth your while to look into what anime has been feeding into the Western mind for the last 30 to 40 years, right? Anime really became a full-blown phenomenon in America, theoretically by the mid-'80s, as all of the so on and so forth. And then there was also stuff for girls that was coming out around that same time, all Americanized, right? And then by the early 90s, Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z explode in the alternative, independent film and animation scene in media, right? By the early 2000s, every major city had an anime shop. You couldn't just go to any video store to get the great comprehensive selection. You had to go to a store that sold only Japanese media to get it. And then you could buy your episodes of Mobile Suit Gundam, you could buy the miniatures of the Gundams, and you get cool art zone. Oh, there we go. Little bit of a dead zone. That's what it was like in the early 2000s, getting a hold of anime. And why we were getting a hold of anime. It was because it was the greatest thing in fueling the imagination, using the limitlessness of animation that was done properly to bring big ideas to life, even if it wasn't of the highest standard of animation, right? Sometimes you were 3 steps away from it being a fucking motion comic because of how much they cut the budget and did all that blur motion background while freeze framed in an action pose, right? To bring the action to life. You had almost a cheap, almost stock kind of 80s ballad rock metal kind of soundtracks that were emerging late 80s, early 90s for this kind of thing. It was an awesome fucking time. It was a time when, men make an anime for men, and men make an anime for women, right? We're all over the scene, not dumbing it down, getting into deep and profound ideas, dealing with all manner of any kind of subject that was just like any kind of mature and adult subject you would expect from live action film in the States. You had animes that were like the Terminator franchise, animes that were like the Excalibur movies. You had animes that were all manners of different kinds of dramas, comedies. It run the gambit. And it taught you a lot of interesting things. It exposed you to an extraordinarily alien culture that also you felt comfortable with because you could relate to the things about their culture that they were expressing to themselves, like the deep desire for technological progress to make things better, in metaphysics that were transcending whatever, kung fu stories, of course, inspiring martial art. I mean, like I said, fucking Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z. Every fucking day in the gym, some schmuck with a Dragon Ball Z shirt is in there, and I'm just like, it's just like they don't even care about the originality. It's just, it's too perfect of a role model for them to carry when they walk into the gym. It's too perfect for what they need at who they are, their level of consciousness that they desire. And so you've got yoga, and I don't just do yoga to impressively fold like a pretzel for shits and giggles. I do yoga to take my body's ability to perform to its absolute highest peak that I can achieve with the vessel I am given this cycle. To reach in certain ways, to be able to crawl through certain tight spaces in certain ways, right? To be able to get in and out of situations. If I'm grappling with somebody, it's just like, aha, I got you in an armbar. Aha, I'm extra flexy right there. You almost got me in the armbar, but you weren't expecting that, were you? Right? It's these kinds of things. That's why I do yoga, right? Imagine you're doing yoga because you're going to be the cog in a machine. Now you've done all this yoga, some tyrant comes in, and now you're literally a cog in a machine because you did yoga your whole life, and you're... Hey, there we go. All right, sorry about that. I'm back. Hey, there we go. All right, sorry about that. I'm back. I'm gonna wrap it up here because the signal's too funky. I was gonna say that we have seen this "you're become a cog in the machine" in Snowpiercer, where they keep taking the children who could do this for some strange reason or whatever, and everybody thinks it's a sexual thing, right? The movie misleads you into thinking it's because the Willy Wonka train guy is a pervert. And then you get there, it's just like, nope. It's, if the human race wants to survive, Snowpiercer must continue. The part broke long ago. There's nothing on the train we can use to produce the part. We can't stop to take time to build it because the train's perpetuation is what keeps everybody alive in this apocalypse. Therefore, they take a small child until the child is too old to fit in the engine compartment. So every fucking 3 years or something, they need a new child because they can't be too small, they can't be too big. So Snowpiercer. So think about that for a second, right? The engine of the world through the exploitation of the children, which is an allegory, but may also be part of an ancient truth that may get revealed to us. So anyway, I'm going to catch you guys later. Thanks for tuning into my little dissertation on how we perhaps have been learning about vimanas through giant robot anime. Find a giant robot anime, one that's very esoteric, involving, child pilot who is special and is the only one who can pilot the damn thing or something like that. That's going to give you this hint to what I'm looking at. All right. I'll catch you guys later.